I went on unemployment in the fall of 1965. Then in January I began working for my father in his newly acquired advertising specialty company. I was to create a catalog for cardboard signs and start learning to cut linoleum blocks to print them. I was very isolated as my friends had all left town or joined the Army. Dr. Austin felt my improvement was such that I could stop taking any medication. My parents only encouraged me to stay home and work for them, what I saw as a dead-end job learning a dead-end skill. When I tried to bring up the subject of moving out, they made it clear they would not support me in that effort. One night I came home from the movie and heard this unearthly wailing coming from my mother's room. But when I went upstairs, it stopped and I realized I was alone in the house. I felt I had been warned, but I had no idea about what or from whom. In February, a large microwave antenna was constructed across the street from my work, and it was pointed directly at my office. I also began to feel pressured about meeting a major deadline for the catalog. I felt I was just one of Dad's employees. During that time, I began to notice strange things happening. The dog would stare at the telephone and whined, and I heard clicks when I picked up the phone. At work, I started to hear garbled speech out of the radio. During that time, I again and again was drawn to a memory of an assignment when I was working for the paper. I had met a group of foreign students at a high school, and they had just conducted a seminar on the exchange student program. However, my memory became sprinkled with something different. I knew that parts were coming from some place else in the world at the very same time I was becoming aware of them. Somewhere tests were being done on a man. The subject was on a podium and in front of others. They were developing and engaging his telepathic ability, his ability to read my mind. I tried to tell myself this was just a daydream, but it became all too real. And I began to emphasize with this subject. Each time I envisioned this scene, I received more and more information until I realized I was being spoken to telepathically through this subject. The subject was speaking my words just as I was thinking them. I began to feel I was taking place in Russia, and that the person being interrogated was under hypnosis and was an unwilling subject of the experiment I was interrupting. I began to feel compassion for this poor subject of the experiment, and I tried to send him reassurance telepathically. Soon I became a thorn in the side of those conducting the experiment. They telepathically tried to warn me off, and failing that, asked me what country and what agency I was with and where I was getting my training. For the first time, I opened myself up to the fullest of my psychic abilities. This psychic world began to become more real than the one I was living in, and the pressures to maintain a normal facade while living in a private yet international experience became too much for me to deal with. I heard various phrases in my head, one of which was Operation Blue Light. I tried to drown out the voices of the various government programs with my phonographic records at night and the radio at work, but to no avail. I began to pick up different voices telepathically which came from different countries' psychic spying programs. Then I engaged some of them in conversation. When my next paycheck came on Friday, I just left, saying nothing to my family. Monday would be the 4th of July, so I would not have to be back to work until Tuesday. My last act at home was to write blue light on an envelope and place my high school class ring in it. Then I left it on the hi-fi in my room and went out to my car. I was off with no destination in mind, just a desire to get to the bottom of whatever it was that had begun to haunt my every moment. Soon I was on a road trip in my trusty little '58 Volkswagen Bug.